What are the sinister secrets hidden behind the chilling tale of Kathy Odom? Why did her life take a dark turn after marrying Mike Odom, a man with a criminal past? Who could be responsible for the brutal attack on that fateful day in March 1987? As suspicions shifted from one suspect to another, what mysterious clues emerged, eventually leading to the shocking revelation of the true perpetrator? What gruesome events unfolded in Kathy and Mike's room that led the officer to discover Kathy's lifeless and brutalized body? Please join us as we delve into the enigmatic depths of this haunting cold case, seeking answers that have eluded justice for so long. Hi and welcome back to our channel. If you are new here, please consider subscribing, as it helps us motivate to create more intriguing content for you. Let's have a look at Kathy Odom's 15-year-old cold case finally solved. On March 3, 1987, Kathy Odom's life was cut short in a senseless manner when she was brutally murdered at the house that she owned in the county of Harris, Texas. Kathy was born on October 25, 1959, and she first met Mike Odom when they were both students at the same high school. They eventually fell in love and made the decision to get married, but their preparations were derailed when Mike was arrested for selling heroin to a police officer working undercover. He was given a sentence of 6 years in prison. However, he was only required to spend 2 years before being freed. Kathy remained by Mike's side through all of the difficulties and waited for his release. In the second year following his release, the couple finally tied the wedding and had their first 2 children, Tasha and Scene. Kathy was said to be a loving wife and mother who did everything in her ability to provide for her family. She was regarded as being committed to her family. On the fateful day of the incident, Mike was away from home for work. Concerned when Kathy didn't answer the phone, he called their next-door neighbor and asked him to check on Kathy and the kids. The neighbor arrived at the house and found the front door open. Inside, he discovered a horrifying scene. 4-year-old Tasha was found unconscious and severely beaten on the living room sofa. Fortunately, baby Scene, who was just 2 months old, was unharmed in his room. As the neighbor feared for Tasha's safety, he rushed into town to find a police officer. When they returned to the Odom's house, they discovered Kathy's lifeless and brutalized body in her and Mike's bedroom. The crime scene was gruesome, indicating a violent struggle. Kathy had been savagely beaten, stabbed more than 16 times, strangled, and had the lamp cord tied around her arms. The police were concerned that the perpetrator might return to finish the job with Tasha. Both Tasha and Scene were immediately taken to the hospital for treatment and protection. Meanwhile, Kathy's father, Frankie Martin, arrived at the crime scene and was instructed to visit his grandchildren at the hospital. Distraught and eager for answers, Frankie closely followed the news and investigation developments. With Mike returning home after the discovery, the police paid careful attention to his behavior and appearance. One officer noticed a few red spots resembling blood on Mike's shirt. Moreover, during a search of the Odom's house, blood was found in the bathroom, indicating that someone, possibly Mike, had attempted to clean up the crime scene. There were no signs of forced entry, suggesting that the perpetrator knew Kathy personally. The investigators suspected a personal motive for the crime due to the extreme violence inflicted on Kathy. Mike Odom became a primary suspect in the case, but as the investigation progressed, he and his friend, Tim Robinson, were ruled out as suspects. Both men had alibis and passed polygraph tests, eliminating them from the list of potential perpetrators. Attention then turned to Kathy's sister, Shelley Martin's husband, Greg Marquardt. Greg had a history of drug-related issues, and Kathy had expressed concerns to her friends about his inappropriate advances towards her. Adding to the suspicion, Tasha, who had been in a coma following the attack, provided a critical eyewitness account. She described a man with yellow hair entering the house, which did not match Mike or Tim but matched Greg's appearance at the time. Greg claimed he was not with his wife on the night of the crime but with someone named Hampton Robinson II, a friend of Charles Harrelson. Harrelson was the father of the famous actor Woody Harrelson and had been convicted of a murder in 1982. Robinson had testified against Harrelson during the trial. Greg's fingerprints and hair were found at the crime scene, but this alone didn't conclusively prove his guilt since he had been to the house multiple times as a family member. Kathy's family expressed their suspicions to the police, stating that they believed Greg was responsible for the crime. Shelley and Greg visited Tasha 2 days after the incident, and this visit raised further doubts in Frankie's mind. Charlene Martin, Tasha's grandmother, recalled how Tasha reacted with fear upon seeing Greg during that visit. During the police interview, Greg exhibited an unnerving obsession with Kathy, specifically focusing on her stomach. This detail was significant since Kathy had suffered numerous stab wounds to her abdomen. Strangely, Greg asked to leave the interview to put more money in a parking meter and never returned. He also refused to take a polygraph test, raising further suspicion. Investigators then explored Greg's alibi provided by Shelley, claiming he drove her to school at 10:30 a.m. and picked her up again at 2:30 p.m. on the day of the crime. The medical examiner's estimated time of Kathy's death was around 1 p.m., which allowed enough time for Greg to commit the crime within the 4-hour window. During this period, DNA testing was not as advanced as it is today, so investigators relied on serology, which involved typing blood groups. The blood type found on Kathy's body matched Greg Marquardt's, as both had blood type O, however. Since approximately half of the population shares the same blood type, this evidence alone was inconclusive. The case eventually went cold, leaving Kathy's family desperate for justice. In 1998, a cold case team was formed, and Kathy Odom's case was reopened. The advancement in DNA technology allowed them to create a DNA profile from evidence preserved in a paper bag, including the electrical cord used to tie Kathy. The DNA analysis revealed that Greg's genetic background differed from Kathy's that identified him as one of the 2% of the general population who could have been the perpetrator. As the investigation intensified, an unexpected breakthrough occurred. Greg confessed to another prisoner while in jail, admitting to the heinous crime. According to his confession, he was high on heroin when he went to Kathy's house that day. After being rejected, he resorted to violence, attacking Kathy and threatening to harm Tasha and Sean unless she complied with his demands. Greg then tied Kathy's hands, beat her, and fatally stabbed her multiple times. After cleaning up in the bathroom, Greg dressed in Mike Odom's clothes and left the crime scene. Unaware that DNA technology would evolve over the next 15 years, allowing him to be linked to the crime, Greg eventually inherited a substantial amount of money from his rich aunt, but it was later seized by the Martins through a lawsuit, preventing him from using it for his defense. Finally, in December 2002, Greg Marquardt was charged with Kathy's murder. He pleaded guilty in 2004, and all the evidence against him was proven true. He received a 45-year prison sentence, but in 2008, after serving 4 years of his term, Greg passed away from liver cancer at the age of 56. The tragedy deeply impacted Kathy's family. Shelley initially stood by Greg and believed in his innocence, causing a temporary rift with her parents. However, with time, Shelley reconciled with her family, and they eventually moved to Oklahoma. The pain of losing Kathy will never fade for her family, and they will forever cherish the memories of their beloved daughter and sister. Frankie Martin expressed that her death would never bring Kathy back, and he would always remember her, the home they built, and the precious moments they shared together. Kathy Odom's story serves as a reminder of the devastating consequences of violence and the enduring strength of a family in the face of unimaginable tragedy. Her legacy lives on through the efforts of law enforcement and forensic science, which worked tirelessly to bring her killer to justice. Thank you for staying with us till the end of this gripping story. We hope you found it as compelling as we did. As we continue our journey of uncovering and exploring intriguing narratives, we look forward to having you join us again for more captivating tales. Thanks for watching.